it is almost silent in here, which is like such a contrast to the rest of the city, which is like mad. It's awesome. I mean, look at this. I never thought that I would be taking a gondola through the Andes as a mode of public transport.
Hey everyone, I'm Tim, and I've just finished a 9-month odyssey around Latin America. Now I'm reopening my diaries, and this time I'm bringing you along with me. Week by week, country by country, all the colors, all the craziness, all the food, all the music, and all the splendor. 9 months when each morning was a new adventure. The road was my companion, and Latin America cast its spell on me. This is my Latin America Diaries. Welcome back to Latin America Diaries. I took an overnight bus from the silver mining city of Potosí and arrived early in the morning in La Paz, the administrative capital of Bolivia. From La Paz's surprisingly organized bus station, I made my way to the Raven Hostel, where there was this lovely Paraguayan receptionist who allowed me to check in early. La Paz immediately struck me as the biggest and most developed part of Bolivia that I had been into up until that point. And if you're wondering why it is known as the administrative capital and not the official capital, check out my previous video from Sucre to explain how that system works in Bolivia. La Paz is what I would call an impossible city. It's impossible because of how extreme it is. It's the kind of thing that if you were to explain La Paz to an urban developer, they would probably tell you that this kind of city shouldn't exist. La Paz sits high up in the Andes at around 3,600 meters above sea level. But it's not just high, it's built inside a steep valley. The city center sits at the bottom, and then almost immediately the land rises sharply another 400 meters up to a plateau at around 4,000 meters, and that plateau is El Alto. And if you approach La Paz from El Alto, the top of that plateau, looking down into the city, it's as if the entire city has just been dropped into this canyon, in like a hole in the ground. And as the city has sprawled, as many cities do, it's rather than sprawled outwards, it's actually sprawled upwards, up the side of the canyon. The houses and apartment blocks and commercial buildings cling to the side of this canyon. There were moments where I'd be standing on a street in the city, looking straight ahead, and instead of seeing a horizon, you'd see a wall of buildings rising almost vertically in front of you. From other angles, you'd see houses and apartment blocks perched precariously along the canyon walls. It's difficult to really conceptualize just how extreme and unbelievable La Paz is. I actually kind of loved it. And this is also why I'm going to call La Paz an impossible city, because some people have told me that La Paz is an impossible city to love, but I disagree. I think that, I mean, it's extreme, no doubt, but it's fascinating just like how this city exists in this geographical position in the mountains. It's insane. That said, I did have one sort of darker thought while I was there, and that is that I do not know and I cannot imagine what kind of hell would be unleashed on this city if there were to be an earthquake one day. I had like visions of the whole thing just, sort of sliding down the mountain, and let's pray that that never happens. As I mentioned, El Alto is another city. It's up on top of the plateau above La Paz, and it is considered a separate city to La Paz. However, people move between El Alto and La Paz every day, living in one and working in the other. El Alto is also where La Paz's international airport is. So if you take El Alto and La Paz as one big urban conglomeration and consider it as perhaps Greater La Paz, then it just edges out Santa Cruz de la Sierra as the largest city in Bolivia. This place is quite literally on another level. That afternoon I headed up, and quite literally up, into the city center from the hostel and set out to explore it. I headed directly to one of the markets where I absolutely overpaid for a small souvenir, but honestly it came with a story, so I'll take it. It was this little llama charm, which felt pretty fitting given where I was. Llamas are known for their ability to navigate steep mountain terrain, and that's exactly what this city does. Later that afternoon, I think that just tiredness from the bus journey and maybe probably the altitude as well was starting to catch up with me. So I started to make my way back towards the hostel, and that's where I caught sight of La Paz's very unique public transport system. Because how do you build a metro in a city like this? La Paz absolutely needs a metro system, or at least public transport of some sort, because the city itself is about the same size as Greater Perth or Barcelona. But then how do you do it in the terrain like this? The inclines are too steep for a metro system or a tram system. There are buses that shuttle their way around the city, there are lots of them. However, there's a lot of traffic and the buses are pretty inefficient in some ways, although a lot of people do still use them. Funiculars, like the ones in Valparaiso in Chile, they can work, but they tend to work on a small scale. They couldn't move an entire city of this side up and down the mountain and from different parts of the city to another. So La Paz came up with a unique solution, that is Mi Teleférico. It's a network of cable cars that stretches across the entire city and into El Alto above. I'd seen something similar in Medellin, but nowhere on this scale. Here it is the metro system. And it's how I'd be getting around over the next few days. Next morning was Sunday morning, and that meant one thing, the famous El Alto street market. It's an enormous sprawling street market that takes over entire swaths of the plateau top city. Getting there was easy enough. There was a Teleférico station right near where I was staying. I bought a ticket and started the journey.
Okay, so this has to be one of the most surreal experiences in Bolivia, or maybe even Latin America so far. I think this is actually the quietest place in La Paz, because I'm alone in this gondola. It's Sunday, so it's not too busy, and it is almost silent in here, which is like such a contrast to the rest of the city, which is like mad. It's awesome. I mean, look at this. I never thought that I would be taking a gondola through the Andes as a mode of public transport. This is insane. And the next line that I need to take is the yellow line, and I can already see the yellow gondolas over there that will take me from Libertador, I think it's the next stop. And you can see the yellow down there to the line that I'll be transferring to, and then that will take me up the hill to, a part of the way to El Alto. Definitely one of the most interesting experiences of my trip so far. Absolutely. So when I first arrived in La Paz, I spent all of yesterday actually down there in the city center, which is in the valley, and this is the main part of La Paz. And you can see that La Paz mostly occupies like the city, the valley there. However, there's a whole other part of the city which is up here on the hilltop.
That's 3 separate lines, and that sort of really gives you an idea about how this isn't just some fun cable car that takes you up the hill. This is actually an entire metro system. Beyond that, it's from the Teleférico that you really understand La Paz. You're literally flying over the city, over this vast, dense urban landscape, watching it climb the sides of the canyon. And then, as you ascend towards El Alto, you start to see the full scale of it. The city stretches out beneath you, and eventually you're high enough to look back down into the valley and see the center of La Paz far below. One of the most spectacular sections is on the grey line, where you skirt the edge of the plateau. On one side you have El Alto, stretching out flat and endless, and on the other, the land just drops away dramatically into the canyon where La Paz sits. It's an incredible view, and if you're enjoying these videos, please consider giving it a like, subscribe to my channel, and share it across your social media channels. And if you really like what you're seeing, please tell your family and friends about it. That kind of word of mouth recommendation, it really helps my channel grow. Now, the El Alto street market is something else entirely. And El Alto itself isn't just a suburb, it's very much its own city. The market is enormous. You can find just about anything. Second-hand car parts, glassware, helmets and visors, homemade desserts, t-shirts, dried fruit, and dried fish. At one point, this woman asked me to try some of the dried fish that she was frying up, though she politely asked not to be filmed. Okay, I'm trying this, which is, the nombre es? Ispi, which is basically a type of fish that is fished in Lake Titicaca, and I'm trying it for the first time. It's coming from here, where they fry it straight up. Wish me luck. Not bad actually. It's bueno. It's a bit like sardines, I guess. Not bad. Gracias. There are also traditional herbal remedies, many of which trace their origins back to the Aymara people, who have lived in this region for centuries. These remedies are still widely used today, everything from natural medicines to sweeteners like stevia.
Stevia.
Oh, es stevia.
Dulce es esto.
Oh, sí.
Dulce.
Es muy dulce, ¿no?
Sí.
Es como azúcar.
Así plantitas, bajito nomás va así. Ahí
Sí.
se podan y vuelve a crecer.
Ah, bien. So I'm being told to try this stevia leaf, which actually I'm allergic to stevia. It's not a serious allergy, but I am. So here we go. If I disappear after these stories, then you know why. It's muy dulce. It is really sweet.
Para coca llevan. Matecito, se toma tecito.
It's really sweet, but I don't like the texture.
A few moments later.
So now I'm remembering why I don't eat stevia, because it's given me this sort of weird taste in my mouth and sort of like a dizzy feeling, but anyway, you only live once. But this isn't a quaint, picturesque market. It's chaotic, it's raw. It spills through the streets rather than neatly lining them. In El Alto, many of the buildings are unfinished, exposed brick, functional, no frills. And the market feels like an extension of that environment. It's not staged or curated, it's just real life unfolding at full volume. And despite the chaos, the people there are really, really friendly. There's a real warmth to that market that shines through. As I made my way through the market, I eventually got to the interchange of the major freeway that takes you from La Paz up the hill to El Alto. And that's where I came across a performance. It was a group of local women dressed in traditional clothing, and they were performing in the street. These women are often referred to as Cholitas, a term that was once used disparagingly but has since been reclaimed as a symbol of cultural pride. The performance seemed to have a mix of elements, part cultural expression, part political message. I'm still not sure exactly what they were singing about, so if anyone can understand that or can make sense of it, please mention it in the comments below. I'd be really interested to hear from you. And it was up there from El Alto that I first really noticed Illimani. It's this enormous mountain sitting about 50 kilometers from central La Paz, rising to around 6,400 meters. And when the weather is clear, you can see it from almost anywhere in the city. It kind of looms over everything, like a silent guardian. It's like a geographical patron saint watching over La Paz. And Illimani, in fact, is considered something of a spiritual guardian of La Paz in the Aymara tradition. After that, I decided that it was time to see more of El Alto, and the best way to do that is from above on mi Teleférico. It's not just public transport, it's basically an aerial tour of the city, so I jumped on another line, this time the dark blue line, which runs deeper into El Alto. And it's along this route that you really start to appreciate just how vast El Alto actually is. Despite being higher, colder, and more extreme than La Paz, it's absolutely huge. Up here, the land is flat, and with the airport nearby and major highways connecting outwards, this feels like the future of the region. This is where the city is expanding. New housing developments, growing neighborhoods, the urban fringe of Greater La Paz. As the cable car glides over the city streets, you get these incredible sightlines over the grid below. And it's from up here that you can really begin to appreciate just how massive the Sunday market in El Alto actually is. It's not just one area, it's everywhere, almost the entire city. Entire streets are packed with stalls. And then by Monday, it all disappears. The market vanishes and the city just goes back to normal. At one point, I could see the airport in the distance, but it really is just in the distance. And I believe that there is a cable car line coming up and in development to link the airport with central La Paz. As I was looking down one of the main arterial roads, completely choked with traffic, beyond it, in the distance, Illimani again, rising above the edge of the La Paz Valley, partially hidden in the cloud. Even from that far away, it dominates the skyline. One of the great things about Mi Teleférico is the insights and the glimpses that it gives you into daily life just unfolding on the streets of La Paz and El Alto. You're floating above the city, seeing everything unfold below. Family gatherings, something that looked like maybe it was the beginning or the end of a wedding, people playing football, even what seemed to be squash courts tucked into the neighbourhoods. Eventually I made my way back to the main interchange in El Alto, which is where I had begun my journey through the street market. I grabbed a coffee and I decided to take a walk around and see what else was going on. And that's where I came across Cholita wrestling, which is something that my friend Pato had told me about when I was visiting Chile just a few weeks earlier. Cholitas, the women in traditional dress who I talked about earlier, they take part in this kind of chaotic wrestling spectacle. They go up against each other, and often men as well, in this kind of mix of sport, performance, theatre, competition. I'm really not sure what it is. I mean, is it tradition? Is it cultural? Is it performance? Is it simply entertainment? Is it about empowerment? Is it a political message? I'm still not 100% sure, but I bought my ticket and I sat there and I watched it unfold. I'll let you be the judge.
Ahí está, se va a llevar, ahí está la cuerda. Tremendo, North Angel. Va a tomar Caldera, ahí está, ahí. Ahí está, el duelo entre Rudo. Ahí está North Angel. Vencido Rudo, castigando ahí a Silvina. ¡Ay, no!
After that, it was time to head back down to central La Paz, and for that I boarded Mi Teleférico once again, and this time took the red line down the side of the mountain. And doing that at night was something else. As the cable car descended into the valley, the entire city lit up beneath me. Lights scattered across the canyon walls, stretching up into the darkness. It was absolutely stunning. The next morning I set out on foot to explore central La Paz, and that took me to Plaza Morillo, the city's main square, and the nearby La Paz Metropolitan Cathedral. This part of the city feels more traditionally South American, very Spanish colonial in style. It actually reminded me a bit of the places that I'd visited in the south of Colombia, such as Popayán or Pasto. And from there I headed out to one of La Paz's more famous attractions, the Witches' Market.
So I am now here in the Witches' Market in La Paz, and this is a place, it's one of the most popular tourist attractions in La Paz actually, and it's a place where you can get potions, lotions of all sorts, tonics, you can even get a spell cast apparently. Any problem in life you want fixed, you can get it done here. So let's go and explore.
Now this is a fascinating place. On the surface, it's colourful, full of artisan goods, souvenirs and street art. But traditionally, it's also been a center for spiritual practices, rooted in Andean beliefs often associated with the Aymara culture. You'll find all kinds of traditional remedies here. Coca leaves, for example, are everywhere, used for centuries in the Andes to treat problems associated with altitude, energy, and general well-being. You can drink it as a tea, and it's completely legal in this form. It's a natural, traditional use of the plant, very different from its modern associations with cocaine. But there is a more macabre side of the market, and just a warning here that what I'm about to tell you and then show you is a little bit confronting, so if this isn't for you, consider skipping ahead. One of the more unusual items for sale here that you will see are preserved llama fetuses. These are traditionally used in rituals, often buried under the foundations of buildings, as offerings to Pachamama, or Mother Earth, for protection and good fortune. It's definitely not something that you expect to see just walking the street, and it just gives you an insight into how deep these traditions run. While I was there, I was also given the opportunity to be blessed and my future blessed with good luck by a local practitioner, so I went for it. Still waiting to see where that good luck turns up, by the way. Even if the more intense aspects of the witches' market aren't for you, it's still a fascinating place to walk around. It's full of history, culture, and a very different perspective on the world. On my last day in La Paz, I decided to do a full loop of the city on mi Teleférico. It was from up there that I started noticing things that I had somehow missed before, like this giant cross sitting on one of the hills. On another stretch, I passed over several churches and even caught a view of the general cemetery of La Paz, along with all sorts of smaller details that you just don't see from street level. It's one of the best things about the cable car system in La Paz. It gives you a completely different perspective on this city. And it's worth saying, La Paz isn't just this chaotic vertical maze. There are really nice parts of La Paz as well, beautiful apartment blocks, lovely parks. Just around the corner from this hostel where I was staying, there was actually a really nice upmarket shopping center. I went there for dinner one night. I also tried getting into a well-known restaurant near the Witches Market on the day that I was up there, but it was completely packed, so I went to a local vendor for fried chicken. That did the job. Another thing which surprised me while I was there is the popularity of noodle dishes. It's sort of like this fusion of Chinese Andean cuisine, but maybe it's local, I'm not sure. It was delicious. I mean, you know, stir-fried noodles with fresh vegetables and meat. I guess this is a major part of Bolivia's culinary tradition, and it was delicious but unexpected. Overall, I loved La Paz. Look, I don't know that I'd recommend it to everybody. It's intense, it's chaotic, it's overwhelming, it can be exhausting and physically challenging with the altitude and the inclines, but it's also unforgettable. Coming up next on Latin America Diaries is a journey to Lake Titicaca that is coming in a special episode this Monday, and this is one of the most unforgettable parts of my trip to Bolivia. Make sure that you tune in again then, and like, share and subscribe. I'll see you on Monday.